Everyone, I apologize for the timely start. You'd say it was Halloween. I had difficulty with the screen yesterday in one of my connectors, so we're ready to go. This topic is strategies for working in school. Sharing the presentation with two other folks out in the field. Mary Lee Bourbeau, who's the project director for the Finger Lakes Eat Smart New York program operating out of Wayne County, and Steve Fronier, who's the director of nutrition and health education at the Food Bank for New York City. And so I think it'll be a different kind of webinar, but hopefully fruitful for you. Remember from previous webinars, you have the opportunity to set messages in the chat room. If you look at the right-hand screen, you should have an opportunity or a box there that gives you the opportunity to type in a message, and you can send it to all of us or to individual people out in the field that you know. You're all signed in. On the right-hand side, you can see all of the participants. If you're sitting at a desk or a table with someone else, will you type in their name so that I know that we have a recording of everyone that's attended? I know we have 20 links, but I think we have more than 20 people registered. So if you would go ahead and do that now and tell me who you're sitting with, that would be really helpful. Before then, are there any questions? Very good. So objectives for today are to briefly review the approved resources that you have available for work in school, review the types of work that you could do with various schools, and to share two examples of how SNAP-Ed staff are working in and with schools across New York State. So let's look at the list of approved resources. So this comes out of your SP with OTDA, where they listed the curricula you could work with. So there's a nice selection of curricula for use in schools during the school day. And then there's a choice of 3 that are specifically designed for work with after school. So you have opportunities to do a number of other things, which we'll describe in a minute. So I'm just going to briefly recap the sources so you can have a handle on what's usable and doable and how you want to jumpstart your work in school. Excuse me. So nutrition has a variety of, if you look at the Team Nutrition site, it has a variety of tools and opportunities for engaging students, parents, and food service staff. Team curriculum per se, but a collection of ideas. And actually folks to join the Team Nutrition bandwagon to get on board with some of the ideas that Team Nutrition has put out there, particularly sharing successful strategies that students, parents, and other professionals in the school could actually do without your involvement. And so I look at those resources and have interested schools that just want to do something short and to the point without doing a full lessons or a full-blown involved students in classrooms. There's some great ideas here. The most interesting idea is to get your school or get a school recognized as a school of excellence. There's a voluntary certification initiative that you can encourage your schools to go through and check off. There's a series of things to have in place and send it in and approved as a Team Nutrition school. And that could be something that for some schools is relatively easy with an interested health teacher or PE teacher would be relatively to get the school to sign on to. So take a look at that as something that could be very useful for everyone to do. To curricula that have specific lessons for specific grades. It is designed for 5th and 6th graders, and by the title you can imagine that it has a lot to do with school gardening. It talks about growing, as it says there, harvesting, tasting, learning about fruits and vegetables. So that's really in terms of pushing the core messages that we want to share. The thing, and it's a good selling point, is that each lesson meets education standards in the following subjects. So this is a marketing piece that you might want to highlight when you're working in the school. So there are lessons or components that meet the science standards, the English language arts standards, math, and or health. And that are really pressed for time and want to maximize every opportunity to meet their core learning objectives. This would fit in and also provide an opportunity to teach about health and nutrition. This is well and keep moving. It's designed for 4th and 5th graders. Again, lessons can be integrated across a number of important subjects: math, language arts, social studies, visual arts. They actually have 48 multidisciplinary lessons. So imagine that when you're looking for ideas or you're looking for examples of what to do in school and how to make this interesting if they're not sold already on health and nutrition. So a curriculum that focuses on health and physical activity. The goal of reducing risk for the consequences of obesity, high pressure, type 2 diabetes, and the like. So this might be more appealing to science teachers, perhaps. I urge you to take a look at this curriculum for your school. So presentation on Cookshop, but you probably have heard about Cookshop. It's for grades for kindergarten through 5th grade. It's comprehensive, provides experiences and opportunities for staff, faculty, higher administration, parents, and children talking about food and nutrition. I'll about this in detail in a little bit. I have Catch as a product that you can use. Catch is a comprehensive approach to child health and nutrition. There's the after-school component, which many of you in Extension have been trained on. It's called Kids Club. It's for grades 6, 8. There's also a companion piece for kindergarten to grade 5, and a smaller, more compact pre-K version of that. We've for the 6th to 8th grade after-school folks involving PE teachers and extension staff. There's the comprehensive in-school program, which again involves administration, teachers, food, classroom education and opportunities, and also lunchroom opportunities. So much more comprehensive and complete program. There's training that's available for school systems that are interested in that. And you explore that on the Catch website, which is a quite interesting and useful place to go for ideas and tips on how to work in school. The curriculum I'm going to talk about is Media Smart Youth. That again for children, young people, as it's described here, preteens, 11 to 13. This is an after-school product. It deals a lot with media, and one of the final products is a little mini video that students would put together. So it's kind of an interesting way to approach advertising and of food and how food is advertised in our culture. See, something that you could explore with after-school programs that have kids do projects and want to occupy kids in a more purposeful way after school with a real significant hands-on project. You know, much of the work in school could be done in classrooms or level. And so we have a lot of experience, I think, going into schools, doing a series of lessons. Focus on individual behaviors and usually driven by the program, driven by SNAP staff in cooperation with the teacher. Gets us a lot of mileage in terms of sharing behaviors that are positive and achieve our goal of reducing childhood obesity. But there are other approaches which could lift our sights a little higher, possibly at the school level, to involve multiple classrooms or grades, the lunchroom environment, physical teachers, and to how physical activity is done. Things that also might change the norms or choices that children have, policies and work with wellness councils, but also there's an opportunity to work with PTAs and PTOs to a larger school community. We have very few examples of projects across the state that address district-wide changes. And some of you are working on that relative to vending and fundraising in school policies that are reaching and are used in the district versus just being applied in one school. So we have our toe in the door for some changes, but I think you have an opportunity with schools to really do a great to our communities in thinking about environmental change. And so look at this next slide. We think about policy systems and environmental work. You have tools that would help you peck away at the systems that influence how children behave in school, policies under which they operate. And so team nutrition would be something to look at to give you some ideas. Certainly try to look broadly at school districts. Some really interesting things that affect a whole school and a whole district. And then your school wellness policies could be promoted across the district to from kindergarten to senior students. I talked about this as a curriculum, but some who have worked on projects farm to school, service folks, getting them to look at locally sourced fruits and vegetables to bring into your school system, into your school food service. And so that's an opportunity to affect not just the school lunchroom environment, but to influence what happens in terms of food systems in your community. And that's something that we think about an extension, and so it's something we could also bring into our think about SNAP Ed and work across the state. So IDSA work could occur at all levels, and I think that there's really good things going on, and we just need to think about pulling it all together when we approach schools and the good that's done there. So thinking about getting into schools, there's some really useful best practices that we could share. So this work comes from a small work group that we pulled together actually 2 years ago to help us think about approaching schools. And so I don't think this is, but I think to think in long term we might think about approaching school. So some of you have shared that it takes a year of planning to actually get into a classroom, so that the lead time is quite significant when we think about working in the school and classroom. So I would say that many of you have your toe in the door, but that you could start thinking now in more concrete ways about what you could add for next year's activities. So channels of communication, the pressure points, where decisions are made, who are gatekeepers, what district might have in place in terms of managing or require certain to be followed when you enter a school. And so, by virtue of the fact that you're parents and have children in school, you have ins with teachers, with principals, with your schools. And so I think you can come at this in a number of ways. But as a SNAP Ed program, we need to think about systematic ways of approaching schools and school districts. In thinking this through with Lisa, we talked about a number of things that could be more formal, and be to send a letter introducing yourself and your program and request a meeting with school administration to tell exactly what it is you want to do. And if you don't get a response from that letter, it's likely that, knowing how busy school districts are and school administrations, that you want to follow up that letter with a phone call. And then you get in and have a meeting. You have wonderful things to share about what it is you do, how to support learning across the board, how you could support learning not just in the classroom, but in the district with a number of things that you could provide. And examples of there in terms of a lesson or showing the products that you use to the best practice would be to have a clear vision of what you want to do, have a plan of what it is you want to do so that it can be shared widely, so that there would be no miscues between administration, the staff in the school that you might work with, principal, and the specific teachers that you might work with. So everybody has the same message about what you want to do and what it is the administration has on their head that you will do. And so the path, you might guiding and then follow up with a phone call or a meeting. And our key contacts or champions that you could cultivate across and along your way as you move forward. And so as a process that could start now and rolling if you're not in schools in a way that's satisfying to you or administration, that you could get the ball rolling now and set things up for 6 months or the next school year. This key contact list of folks that are, rooted in schools on the left-hand side, and then community-based people that could help you get in to the school and share your message. Because you're out in the community now doing important presentations with groups of community members, and so I think that you can have good success. Include farmers there, because those of you who are doing farm to school have a toe in the door with food service, and your farmers can be good cheerleaders for you in the district or in the school to spread the message of what you do and how you do it. And before we switch to our other speakers, I would invite any questions right now that you might have. This is about accessing a copy of the presentation, and I would say that all of our webinars will be available shortly. We would welcome use of this if this is helpful, and I'm really happy that it is. So the question about having certified teachers to teach during the day, I say that ODA would like for you to think about having teachers do these presentations. And so I have a summary slide at the end of the presentation that talks about connect with administration to share how that would be done and share with you some new information from Elisa about how that would be done. So there's a question about Healthy Schools grant, and so I'm not particularly well-versed in what that grant entails, and so I would have to do some homework to answer that question. So we'll put that in the parking lot, and I'll answer that offline. So I would like for you to have a better sense of work is done in an after-school thing, and so our next presenter will be Mary Lee Bourbeau, and she's, as I said, the project director in Finger Lake, operating of Wayne County. So welcome, Mary Lee, and you can take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I pretend like I can see you all. It's a little more personal. I've been asked to share some what we're calling key elements for successful after-school programming, and they really come from our experience here in Wayne County and also in the Finger Lakes, our 11-county region. And the first element is really building on what Joan has already presented. I think the first element is to not only market Eat Smart New York, but continue to build collaborative relationships with after-school program leadership and staff. That a marketing packet is very helpful when you do have your meetings with school directors and coordinators. And it can include an overview of Eat Smart New York, the list of curricula, how successful programs, and some quotes from youth and staff from prior programs. Because it is a collaboration to meet after-school programs halfway and to clearly understand what their needs and opportunities are. For experiences that 21st century after-school programs are structured and designed to reinforce what's learned during the school and tend to have a more academic feel, where advantage after-school programs tend to be more child care focused and less concerned about enhancing learning in school. Whatever the case is with your after-school program, you want to understand what their priorities are for the youth who are attending. You need to learn their schedule and time available for lessons, their staffing, and of course any space considerations is important for setting up good programs. So then, of course, the other side is we need to clearly explain what Eat Smart New York can provide. We have found using host agreements, a written form, can be helpful in leading this discussion and even coming up with a written agreement. And the things included in a host agreement, I think, is a requirement that the after-school program provides staff, person or persons are responsible for behavior management and discipline in the school program. So that fall on the Eat Smart New York educator. After-school provider to ensure adequate space, whether it's physical activity and or food experiences planned. Maybe asking them for help in collecting demographic data and even the pre- and post-survey information. In some cases, our after-school providers have actually provided or paid for the food that we use in food experiences. In other cases, we're providing that, so you can discuss that. And any kind of cancellation policy. to talk about ahead of time. This connection and relationship needs to be nurtured over time. And planning that you started, you want to continue that joint planning. So whether it's semester to semester or year to year, you're having these face-to-face meetings to coordinate your programming and really clear expectations. And this makes it much easier to address challenges as they surface, to figure out how to bring parents and the parent component into the program, connect staff and parents and families to whatever social media you may have to offer. Like Eat Smart New York, like all of our programs, has a website. We have an electronic newsletter, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And importantly, you're really developing inroads and relationships to expand into your PSE strategies. Whether it's school gardens, whether it's doing work with service in the cafeterias, or whether working with the school wellness group. My first key element to market Eat Smart New York and to build collaborative relationships. The second, I would say, is educators. We need educators who are prepared and enjoy working with youth. You're selected because of your experience and comfort level with youth, and others are new to it. The experience can come over time, and with that comes confidence. Understanding key elements of youth development can be helpful, whether you pick that up or you've participated in training or you come with that experience and knowledge. In the found, showing experiences can be helpful. So a less experienced educator can shadow a more experienced educator in a youth setting to pick up some tips. And trainings here in the Finger Lakes, where some of our educators are actually modeling lessons using approved curricula, and that has been well received. Those in extension are very familiar with the 4A approach to lesson planning, to include an anchor, an add, and apply and away in your lessons. And found using this approach really helps stay the course so that you're going to ensure that youth are engaged in building and decision-making activities, and the take-home message or challenge to share with parents in the away section. Following that 4A format, pulling it out of the approved curricula can be very helpful in having engaged. Of course, we are encouraged and really should build in physical activity to all our youth lessons, and helps with the engagement as well. Educators find, and we find, that when those grab-and-go kits with the lessons, with the teaching materials, with the handouts, etc., you're prepared and ready to go and spending more time teaching than preparing. If we have developed what we call SOAPs, or standard operating procedures, which helps clearly set out the procedure for working with youth in any forms. And I'd be happy to share these at a later date if anyone's interested. Provide some clear and written guidance to help with staff. And then the directors, the senior nutritionists, any supervisory staff have to support all of these that I've mentioned. Okay. I think Joe said we have a really good set of curricula that are designed to engage youth. With programming, we've had some success with Catch Kid Club. We've also had success with Dig In. Those are youth that have a school garden in their school property, but not always. And we've also had success with Media Smart Youth and Discover My Plate, which is from Team Nutrition. We early on use the Catch Kids Club, the 6th through 8th curriculum, and those lessons in the 4A format, so that it had grab-and-go lessons with the Catch curriculum. And then for a lesson template so they could use it for other curricula with youth. Seem to help. Parent connections is a necessary, important, and required part of our after-school programming. And we have found that in the beginning of the school year, we're sometimes invited to open houses. Of course, those are very well attended. And this gives you an opportunity to give parents and families a sampling of the educational programming that you're planning for that term. We certainly, all the curricula have handouts, newsletter recipes, and those can get sent home. And as for, you want to try hard to connect your parents to any of your social media for continued connection to nutrition education. And nights, whether it's at the end of your series or maybe it's a family cooking program, educators have been part of planning and designing, or that we've been inviting guests to. We found that those are successful ways of connecting with parents. Okay. A couple more elements, key elements to successful programming with after school. We've got that nice collaborative relationship. That's going to be important for addressing any challenges. And the ones we've all experienced and are familiar with are limited and noisy space. When they've got 50 kids in a school cafeteria and expected to do programming in the corner of that noisy space. And one is youth not engaged in the learning experience. Only children for effective learning. So need to be addressed with conversation and figure out the best format to move forward to improve the learning. Other challenges that we don't really have control over include staff turnover, which is high in after-school programming, and then school programs that lose their funding. It's and Joan also talked about this. It's really important to share highlights and successes. You know, I think if we think our success is their success, we continue that collaborative supporting relationship. And to do short highlights that we put on our website. So we have try to include a photo, a catchy description, a quote from a child, any basic information. So these would be easy and are easy to share with after-school staff. And then, of course, as we develop our more in-depth success stories and impacts, share as well. In summary, I would say, you know your programming with school programs is successful when they're coming to you, calling you and asking to schedule nutrition education. When you're moving beyond the lessons and the direct nutrition education and doing some of your PSE work, again, whether it's gardens or cafeterias or school wellness. Asked to do training or asked to do staff training, it's received and scheduled. And then we also experience when ESNE has been part of grants, so as after-school programs continue to search for funding, they can include us as an in-kind program, and sometimes some of our costs, such as food and other teaching supplies. In summary, that building and nourishing successful collaborative relationships with school providers is ongoing. It involves, and it's a rewarding aspect of our jobs. I say that I think Eat Smart New York has the tools to effectively Are there any questions at this time?
So, Marylee's contact information is up there. A couple of tools that she's using that might be helpful to you. So I see any questions coming in, but we can, if you have them, you can also, there'll be a time at the end. So to introduce now Jeannie Fronier, who will talk about and how they are working in the school system.
Thank you, Joan. Hi, everybody. I'm sure many people are familiar with Cookshop. It's been around for a number of years. But we implement it here at Food Bank for New York City, specifically in the New York City area, and really working primarily with schools and after-school programs to reach students and their parents and caregivers with direct, hands-on nutrition education and obesity prevention programming. So the difference about Cookshop, I think, from a lot of other programs is that it's trainers. So we work directly with schools and with after-school programs to provide them with curricula and materials so that they can do hands-on lessons right in their classroom. The lessons really cover my plate and the key messages from the 2010 Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Students learn about food preparation, cooking skills, and then woven throughout that nutrition and physical activity information. So ultimately the goal is we really want to foster enthusiasm for and consumption of fresh and affordable foods, and really, being able to live and understand how to live an active and healthy lifestyle. So the way we're able to accomplish the train-the-trainer model as we have it is that we work to recruit schools and after-school programs that are eligible, obviously same eligibility that everybody else is following on the contract. We work to engage schools. Ultimately, the teachers, parent coordinators, and instructors are going to be the ones who are implementing programming. And so a way that we have really ensured what to be a greater level of success in the teachers being able to do that and feeling well equipped to be able to do that is we start off the program. No school can get into the program without the principal or assistant principal first coming to meet with us via an orientation. So it's held off-site from any schools or after-school programs. We actually hold it at the food bank office. It's just because we're in downtown Manhattan, so it's pretty central throughout the 5 boroughs. So somebody from the school, either the principal or the assistant principal, or sometimes both, they attend an orientation with us where they learn about the program. I'm sure as a lot of folks know, sometimes schools hear about something and they're like, great, when are you coming? And so the difference with Cookshop saying, no, we want to make sure that you understand that your teachers and instructors are going to be the ones who are implementing programming, getting them out of the school where they're prone to interruptions in our last-minute meetings is really great because they also get to meet with each other and hear success stories from other schools who have been doing the program in past years, which just really wonderfully in that setting. Hearing from another principal sometimes is enough to really get another principal engaged more than anything that I or anybody on the team could say. That's really great. So once they attend an orientation with us, they then will receive an application for them to apply to participate in the program. And that really just makes sure they understand the application that they're completing. They know that the teachers are required to attend a training with Food Bank. They know that their teachers are going to be receiving all the materials they need and all the support that they need. And then Food Bank really moves forward from that point once schools apply. Many years it's very competitive. We don't necessarily have the ability to accept all schools that want to participate. But we do, move through the application process and then make sure that teachers are trained in the curriculum. The curricula is implemented in grades K through 5. There's distinct curricula levels for each one of those grades, as well as an after-school curriculum which reaches students ages 6 to 12 approximately. And then in compliance with the contract, every school also implements programming that's geared towards the parents and the caregivers. So we train all appropriate staff who are going to be implementing programming to make sure that they understand how to read a curriculum. They're teachers, so they get that, but really understanding how the curriculum was designed, what the ultimate goals are, and how Food Bank is really there to support them in their implementation of programming. And then once they successfully complete those requirements, we send them all the materials and everything that they need. So everything from curricula and handouts for the students to a bin of cooking equipment and disposable materials, so that they really don't have to think about anything except how they're going to incorporate the lesson into their day. Given that it's, a variety of grades, how a kindergarten teacher implements Cookshop in their day may differ from a second grade teacher, may differ from a fifth grade teacher, and that's really what we like. The beauty of the curriculum is that it's flexible. So it can go across science, math, literacy, social studies standards to really make it something that the teachers can implement in the course of their day. And lastly, food obviously is needed with any cooking education program, and so we work to develop relationships with local grocery stores so that the schools can just place a food order for the food items that are needed. We also, put those order forms together to make sure that they can only order the approved foods, and then the food gets delivered to their school, and so the school really doesn't, or what we hope is, has a minimal burden, and they can really just focus on implementation of programming. So like I said, there are different curriculum levels the program has, and so there's Cookshop Classroom, and that's what reaches students either in elementary school setting in grades K through 5, or the after-school thing, which reaches students, again, approximately ages 6 to 12. And we know, just as Mary was talking about the after-school setting, it really varies site by site. So some sites will be able to distinctly have, first or second graders participating. Some sites have a variety of students. So we've checked curricula to make sure that, regardless of their setting, they're able to implement it successfully. A complementary programming that reaches parents and guardians to really extend the learning that happens in the classroom beyond the classroom, and really the hope to engage the whole family. The complementary Chat for Families curriculum that the parent coordinators primarily implement, being as they are the direct link with the parents. I don't have any specific questions about programming that I could answer additionally, or any recommendations about anything else you wanted me to share.
Jeannie, if people have questions, please type them into the chat box. I think that one message is that you have these best practices that work for you, including, maybe most significantly, implement of the principal or the school administration in the summer before the school starts, so they are well and have clear expectations of what the role of the school is versus your role in terms of training and providing and the tools to deliver the curriculum.
Yeah, and absolutely. I would add that, your note before about working with schools, sometimes the year in advance to programming is absolutely what we do. The orientation that I mentioned that principals or assistant principals need to attend, that's every year. So if they've already been participating in programming, we do ask them to come back, because the goal is to try to get increased number of classrooms participating in the program year after year, as well as to make sure that the administration stays engaged. And sometimes there's administration turnover, so one principal may have signed up for the program, and a new principal comes in, and they don't know if they want to keep the program. Or it's just, it offers them the opportunity to share the feedback from their perspective about, are there things that they're hearing from their teachers, or are there things that they're seeing that are positively impacting their school, or questions they have about how they can, make sure the program stay successful in their school. So we found that to be really beneficial, and still sometimes even doing that, there's still multiple checkpoints that we have throughout the year. We don't just talk to the principals that one time of the year. We send them quarterly progress reports, just kind of letting them know how their school's participation is going, to make sure that we're keeping the lines of communication open. So many things impact the ability to implement lessons and or participate in programming. And so by making sure that we keep the communication lines constantly open, it really helps to build that solid relationship and develop it as well.
2 questions have come in. One is about the cost of food and who's responsible for it. And the second question is about requiring a cafeteria component. Is that required or just desirable?
Yep. So the cost of food. So like I said, we have developed grocery order forms that's specifically based on the curriculum level that a teacher is implementing. And so each school fills out a grocery order form that corresponds with the lesson. They send it to the grocery store that we've developed a relationship with, and the grocery store bills us on a monthly basis. So there's no burden on the school's part, and so it's eliminated the administrative burden over there. I mean, obviously, we still have to go through all the grocery receipts, make sure that they're valid and work with them from that perspective, but we really refined that process over the years. And then as far as cafeteria staff, I mean, in New York City, we have a very good relationship with the Office of School Food. So a big component of the Cook Shop curriculum is really the promotion of school meals and making connections to school meals so that the students understand, when they're looking at where their food comes from, it can start right with when they go to lunch or when they have breakfast at school. So one of the activities in the curricula is dissecting a cafeteria plate. It's pictorial, but it's really looking at, if there's a carton of milk, where did that milk come from, so that they can really think about all those connections. As far as schools getting more involved and working beyond with their cafeteria staff, it's something we encourage. I think it's something that definitely happens for schools that sign up in school wellness councils, and it's something that we're looking to see how we can further help to promote that within the schools to really create a good, solid support system for school wellness.
Thank you. There's a generic question about what schools can we work with, and is there an approved list of schools? I'm not sure if there's a list, but it is part of the regs that if school has about 50% or more of children enrolled in free and reduced price lunch, that would be an appropriate school to work with.
Yep, and through our relationship with the Office of School Food, we verify all eligibility records with them because they have the most up-to-date information. And just New York City, a plethora of schools, and I think it's in excess of 75% of the schools actually meet that qualification, the school meal criteria. So there's no shortage of schools that meet the criteria here. It's more about ensuring that we're working a priority of Food Bank for New York City is really making sure that we're reaching neighborhoods that have the greatest need, and so that it's not just about schools who contact us. It's about ultimately making sure that we're also reaching neighborhoods that could greatly benefit from programming.
That was really helpful. So I just want to show you a summary slide, because most of upstate is not working in schools. Users deliver the lessons, and so this is these are ideas or best practices as shared by Lisa in terms of how upstate you could think about a program that more closely aligns with Cook Shop or has the intensity and the curriculum by the teacher integrated into the school day as Cook Shop does. And so when we talked about communicating early and often, that would be certainly what we would want to do. And there's the opportunity of Using teacher-delivered lessons, there's the opportunity to work with schools to actually reimburse teacher time for providing staff and education. And I don't think there's anybody upstate that has done that, but that is a possibility. And so these steps that you might go through, and again, it would require probably a year's worth of planning. So if you think about starting now or in the spring for next year, this would, it's kind of if you back up all your steps, this would be the time to start thinking about that. So there's a recommendation for your MOU or your agreement in the spring, providing training in the summer or August before the school starts, and then have teachers deliver lessons. So I have a lot of time on this because I think that you as programmers need to think about where that might be appropriate, where your best inroad might be, and how you might engineer a process where you could deliver class or appropriate nutrition ed as delivered by teachers. I'm sure that this has stimulated a lot of conversation. Are there remaining concerns or questions that we could answer at this point? I think for many of you, this might be some really good ideas or opportunities that you could explore and develop a plan to start addressing. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to handle them now. As in our patients that we've done, we'll send out an evaluation later tomorrow to all attendees and have you provide back. As you know, the feedback has been really valuable to us and will shape how to go forward with any additional electronic or distance learning opportunities. So thinking about how teachers are reimbursed for their training time. So understand what might happen upstate. You would be in agreement with the school or the district to reimburse time back to the district and not to the individual teachers. And according to the guidance that we have seen from USDA, that would be based on the average teacher's salary. So you be reimbursing individuals, but you'd be reimbursing the district for their time. So no remaining questions, or nothing is popping up. I thank Jeannie and Mary Lee for testing this process where we host on campus and invite other speakers. We've had a number of behind-the-scenes technical difficulties, including my screen today. So you've all dealt with computers and long-distance complicated presentations. I'm hoping that this went smoother than it felt, but I really thank them for their time and their energy. And so Islam has helped me behind the scenes, and I thank her for her time and commitment to this process, and I look forward to feedback and electronic and distance learning experiences. So thank you, and have a good day.